Good evening. Today's speaker is Justice Bachu Kurian Thomas. He is the Justice in Kerala High Court.
Thank you, Dr. Matthew Koshi. Before I say anything, Latisha, thank you for those wonderful words. I'm indeed honored to be attending this wonderful session, especially with you youngsters. Whenever I attend a function with youngsters, I myself feel very young in mind, young in heart, young in body. So it was a really pleasure for me to open up my laptop and find in the gallery view several youngsters, more than 129 of them. But as I click on my gallery view, I found that all of you are looking a bit grim. We are attending a session or a class on empowerment, positive thinking. The foundation of every positive thinking, I would say, begins with a smile on your face. Can I see a smile on your face? For a speaker to see a smile on the face of the audience is actually an inspiration. It is a positive vibe that comes into the mind of the speaker from the audience. And when the audience gives a positive vibe, the speaker becomes more empowered. So I am also trying to seek an empowerment from you all. So let me get that smile from you. Can I see a smile? Dom, Rema, Don, you can also smile again. Christina, Daphne, Akshay, Sannidhi, Sharon, Prarthana, Sri Anvita, Jackie, Jovin, Amisha, Hefsiba, Agnes, Pramila, all of you smile. Now, this is one of the basic things that empowers every person, a smile. Now, the first person who spoke, who commenced this program, mentioned about me going to speak about public speaking. I would have loved to speak on that because that was my forte. I've taught youngsters more than 75 sessions or 100 sessions I've taken on public speaking. But today I've been asked to speak about positive thinking. I'll try, if time permits, I'll try to include a little bit of public speaking also at the end of the program. But even in public speaking, the first thing that I suggest or I used to advise was keep a smiling face. When you go onto the podium, smile and it reflects back. It is actually very infectious. You smile, the other person smiles. You walk through the road, you start to smile, you put a smile on your face, invariably the opposite person also smiles. This is the fundamental of positive thinking. This is the fundamental of an empowered person. This is the rudimentary thing of a person to become empowered. So I would say in your life, every day, start every moment or every day with a smile. As you all know, positive thinking is all about empowering ourselves. How do you get empowered? Forget about the smile. How do you get empowered? Can I have an answer? What according to you is empowerment? Anyone?
So education.
Yes, very good. Education. Then?
Being independent.
Being independent, very good. Und? Mindset. Who said that?
Prathna Joseph Nag.
Well, that is a very good answer. Apart from becoming educated, everything, empowering oneself is about becoming confident in your life. Even if you're not educated, you can still be positive and you can still become empowered if your mindset becomes confident. Ultimately, empowerment is all about being confident about what you do, what you are, and who you are. It does not matter whether you are in the highest position of your life, the most powerful job, or whether you are in the least of the menial jobs, or whether you are the highest educated person in your area, does not matter. As long as you are confident, you are actually empowered. We, all of us, including me, including Dr. Matthew Koshi and all others, we always try to look outside forces for external validating acts in a quest for empowering ourselves. This is where we commit a mistake, especially in the present times. You decide your empowerment, your confidence on the likes you get in your social media posts, in your Instagram, in your Facebook. If you get 1,000 likes, you are empowered. These are all external validating forces which empowers only your superficial or your surface identity, not your inner identity. If you empower your inner identity, your core, then you become really empowered. The surface empowerment is only for a limited point of time. Tomorrow, when another person dislikes you or ignores you, your empowerment loses, your confidence loses. That should not happen. Now, all the psychologists are experiencing this in this present times because we are seeking empowerment or confidence from external validating acts. Let us not fall into that trap. Now, while I was thinking what I should speak to you, I had different ideas, different books I had read. I've heard several sessions on positive thinking, empowerment. I thought I should refer to the speech or the motivational talk given by a very rare person. His name is Sean Stephenson. He is no longer alive. He was afflicted with a rare disease. The disease is called brittle bone disease. Anyone who's doing medicine or anyone who's from the family of doctors, you would know that. It's medically, it is called osteogenesis imperfecta. He was born with that brittle bone disease. What attracted me was his first sentence. He said, my parents were told that I will not live 24 hours after my birth. This was the first sentence he said. All those doctors who said, I will not live for more than 24 hours are not now alive, while I am alive 35 years after. He lived till the age of 40. He married a very pretty lady called Mindy Kness. This Sean Stephenson was only 3 feet in height. He was not good to look at. He was confined to a wheelchair from the time of his birth. He became a motivational speaker from the age of 17. Imagine a person confined to a wheelchair with brittle bone disease to become a motivational speaker. Imagine how empowered he became. He said, actually, he's written 2 or 3 books also on motivation, on empowerment. If you get a chance, you must listen to him. You can try the YouTube or the Google or buy the books online. He says 5 things. The first is never believe a prediction that does not empower you. Never believe a prediction that does not empower you. It was an eye-opener for me, actually. We've heard our parents, our teachers, our relatives all saying, no, you will not succeed in life. If you don't study like this, you will not succeed in life. If you don't do this, you will not succeed in life. If you do this, you will succeed. Look at us. Look at me. This is the way I did. And now I am successful. He says, when my parents were told that I will not live for 24 hours and they were given a chance to practically prevent my continuance, they did not fall for that prediction. They empowered me by continuing to care and take care of me. And I became a motivational speaker. I continued my life till 40, continued to live till 40 years. He died in 2019. Continued to live till 40 years. So he said, never, ever believe a prediction that does not empower you. You might have, I've come across a student who felt that she was very ugly. The reason was she overheard a person telling her mother, oh, what happened? What happened to your child? She looks very ugly. Now, honestly, after years, she still continued to think that she was ugly, in spite of the fact that she was very, very pretty. What happened? She believed a prediction that never empowered her. Beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder. What is happening now? Again, I go back to several psychologists who have said that you take your camera, you try to do a selfie. You may not look good. That is a peculiarity of the camera. You think that is the way people view you. It is not so. If you see Sean Stephenson, I'll say nobody would ever be able to see a beauty in him. But then there was one person who found him very beautiful, very beautiful. I'll come back to another person a little later. So beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder. There will be one person who appreciates your beauty. Never, ever think that you are not good, you are not successful, you are a failure, or you are ugly, you're not beautiful, nobody likes you, you are a misfit. These are all things that never empower us. Ignore these suggestions. You are what you are. The second point that Sean Stephenson said is that the worst drug that has hit the human race, it is not the narcotic drugs, but it is a drug of pity. The moment you feel pity for yourself, you become frozen in potential. Ultimately, empowerment is all about releasing your entire potential. Everyone is born with a certain kind of potential. The moment you start releasing those potential inside you, that is when you become empowered. That is when you become an achiever. That is when you become confident. And when all these factors fall into place, you feel the real strength inside you. But when you start pitying yourself, you'll say, why did this happen to me? Why was I alone selected to face this adversity? Why did I not succeed in this exam? Why did I not get selected for medicine? Why did I not get selected for engineering? If you get selected for engineering, you'll say, why did I not get that stream? Or why did I not get that job? These are all things that self-pity you. Certainly you will for some moment of time. But immediately after that, overcome it and then go ahead in life and ignore what adversity that you faced, because for every person, another window, when one window window closes, another window opens. I'm sure you're all one people who read the Bible. The Bible, I would say, is one of the great motivational books that we can come across. Whatever is written, whatever was written 2000 years ago still holds good. Even in this modern technological era, it still holds good. For every worry, you take Psalms, every worry that you face in life, you open the book of Psalms or any other book and open and read it, you will find an answer. It empowers you. It prevents you from going into a stage of self-pitying. The moment you start self-pitying, that is the time when you become stunted in growth. You will never grow. You will always cry in your own shackles of self-pity, and you will never be able to become successful. So get out of that self-pity. I will give you one example of, you might have all heard of Jack Ma. Have you heard of Jack Ma? Who is Jack Ma? He's the owner of Alibaba, the co-founder of Alibaba, one of the greatest e-commerce business in the world. Have you heard about his story? He attempted to become an employee of KFC as a salesman of KFC. And there were 24 applicants. 23 of them were selected. He was the only man who was not selected. Out of 24 applicants, 23 were selected. He was not selected. He applied to different jobs as a waiter in a restaurant. He was not selected. He applied 30 times to get different types of jobs. All 30 occasions he was rejected. It was thereafter that in 1999, he co-founded the business called Alibaba. And where is he now? One of the biggest business tycoons in the world. He even attempted to obtain an admission in Harvard School. He was rejected. Surprisingly, much later, he was called to give an oration in Harvard School. And he says, if I had taken self-pity upon me for not getting an employment in KFC, if I had taken self-pity on me for not getting an employment in a hotel as a waiter, if I had taken self-pity for not getting an employment 30 times when I applied, I would have continued to remain with self-pity, ignoring the adversities that I had to face. I pursued, I went forward, and look at where he is now. So never pity yourself. Now, it is easy for me to say all these things. I have also, whatever I say here today, are instances of situations which I have done to myself. I was introduced as a person who obtained a first rank in the university. Yes, I had. But till then, I was never a studious person. My life was always about sports. One day, my father told me, I never have the privilege of seeing my children getting any rank. If I say this today to my children, they will tell me that, what is this? You are criticizing me. You don't have any love for your children. You are ridiculing us. But on the other hand, I took it up as a challenge. Instead of self-pitying me by saying that my father doesn't like me, my father always expects much more out of me, I took it up as a challenge instead of self-pitying me. And I started preparing. Do that. Never go into a self-pity, because your power is in your hands. The third thing that Mr. Sean Stephenson said was, you are not your condition. You are not your condition. Remember, whatever happens to us happens not because of anything that has got to do with us. There are several forces that act upon, but it is upon us to overcome all these conditions. Various methods are available to overcome the condition that you are in. The said condition, these conditions are within you. If you empower yourself, you can change your condition. Now, you might have come across children who are celebrating, or people who are celebrating, enjoying themselves. They are very lively. They are partying. They are always very chirpy. You may at times feel that you are not up to that mark. You're not able to enjoy, not able to be lively. You can't be like the others. Remember that the reason for these thoughts are only you yourself. If you can overcome these thoughts, then certainly you will start enjoying, you will start celebrating, you will start becoming lively. And once you become lively and vibrant and start celebrating along with others, you will realize that you will be able to overcome all your difficulties and your disabilities. If you feel that you are disabled, if you feel that your condition of disability actually cripples you, then you are crippled. If you believe that you are insecure, you are insecure. But remember, the world is not concerned about your insecurity. The world doesn't want to hear a person who's always wanting affirmations or support from other sides. It is upon you to overcome your conditions. So never live in your conditions. Remember that you are not your condition. You have to overcome it. And when we feel insecure, we do stupid stuff. We go for external validation, as I said initially. If you start believing that you are enough, then you will start becoming empowered and confident. The fourth point that is said is about, this is something which really attracted me. Don't fall into the prison of your mind. Don't fall into the prison of your mind. Your mind, you must remember, is the most powerful weapon in the world. I can tell you from my personal experience that there is nothing more powerful than the mind. I'll confide in you one experience that I had few years back. Now, I've never been in a hospital. Few years back when I was traveling through the United States, and I thought I was the most healthiest at that of all my periods. Unfortunately, I got afflicted with a fever. As usual, I ignored the fever. But being in a foreign country, I thought I should take rest. I was at a cousin's house. I told my family that they can go on the holiday. I mean, they can continue with their holiday. I'll stay back home for a day or two. Now we have the internet available. I was at home. My mind was very clear that I was very healthy at that point of time. Nothing can affect me. Unfortunately, since I had enough and more free time, when my wife and children went for sightseeing, I had the Wi-Fi also. I started checking on the internet. After some time, just a curiosity came to my mind. Why should I be at this most healthiest point of my life? Why should I get this fever? I Googled, no infection, no cough, no cold, but very high fever. I had very high fever, 102, 103, very high fever. The reason, now Google uncle or Google auntie, as you may call it, it started giving me indications. It said various illnesses. And in fact, one of the illness which suggested to me was meningitis. And I think it said, if you have some red dot in your hand or in your body, it could be meningitis. I strained myself. I turned, twisted my arms, strained my arms, my legs, everything, and finally found out a red spot on my hand. I started believing that I had meningitis. One day went, 2 days went. I continued to search in the Google. Google gave me different types of illnesses, very serious illness. I went to a consultant over there. He tested me. He said, maybe better that you go back home or you will have to admit you. I preponed my trip. I came back home to India, straight away went to the hospital. I was admitted in the hospital for another 11 days. It was already 14 days over. 4 days over, another 11 days. I was in the hospital. Every possible test was conducted. They could not identify anything. Finally, they concluded that it was undiagnosed viral fever. I diagnosed it finally. Maybe within a year or so, it was Google fever. It was nothing but Google fever. Google gave me an input, which if not for Google, would not have been there with me. It told me that your fever, my fever could be meningitis. I started assuming to myself that it is meningitis. I started assuming that I am afflicted with a very serious illness. It destroyed my inherent immune system, I would say, to a large extent to overcome my fever. Earlier, even if I was afflicted with 102 degrees of fever, I would still go to court. I would still go for work. This really affected me. I lost about 10 kilos. I was miserable. All I would say was because of this Google. What it does is it destroys your inherent immunity created by your mind. Had I thought to myself, I will overcome this, this is nothing, I'm sure that I would have got back to my activity within 3 or 4 days. So your mind creates your world. Whatever your mind conceives, it is able to create it. Whatever you believe is your reality is actually going to be your reality. It happens that way because that is what you expected it to happen. So don't be in the prison of your mind. I'll just repeat what I said. Whatever your mind conceives, it is able to create it. Whatever you believe will create your reality. Whatever you believe is your reality, and it happens that way because you expected it to happen that way. Earlier, prior to, sorry for blaming internet has got thousands of benefits. But earlier, before internet, we used to find out everything by ourselves. We used to have the power to find out by ourselves. Now, internet says, if something happens, this is what it is. It only generalizes things. It is not specific. You go to a doctor, the doctor has general idea about it, but they diagnose it based upon your peculiar traits, your peculiar genes, your peculiar visible signs, which Google is not able to identify as of yet. Now, have you heard of a person called Henry Charrier? I've been so fascinated with him from my younger days. He is otherwise called Papillon. Papillon is Papillon. It is written as Papillon, but pronounced as Papillon. Papillon means a butterfly. It is a book as well as a movie. It was a movie that came out in, I think, 1976 or 79. And there was a remake in 2017 or 18. The remake is also very beautiful, but the movie is nothing compared to the book. The book is unbelievable. It's a true story. Henry Charrier, who is a his pet name was Papillon. Papillon means a butterfly. He had a tattoo on his chest with a butterfly, so he was known as Papillon. It is his autobiography. He was imprisoned in the French Guiana from 1931 to 1945 for a murder which he says he never committed. He was falsely implicated, according to him. We don't know the truth. Now, the prison in that French Guiana was a place where you could never, ever escape. Nobody had ever escaped. This person, he tried to escape the prison 7 times. After the second time, he was shifted to another prison, which was even more difficult. Surrounded, it was an island in the middle of the sea somewhere, surrounded by huge sharks. Impossible to escape. Impossible to escape. Whenever he escaped, he was put into a hole. It's called a hole. No light. The only time a door is opened is to serve him food. Food is very meager. He survived all this. In fact, one of the holes where he was kept, he could not even lie down. He had to sit. He had to stand, actually, because he managed to sit, but he had to stand. That is the size of that hole. In another hole where he was kept, water used to seep in from the sea, and there were sea animals that used to come into the water. He used to eat cockroaches because he was not fed well. If you see the movie, you can notice all this. The book is beautiful. Anyway, he tried to escape 7 times from an impossible prison. But mind you, on the 8th occasion, he actually escaped. He escaped and he wrote this book called Papillon, his experiences. He never let him become the prison of his mind. I'm not saying that you should jump the prison, but I'm just saying that never be in the prison of your mind. He believed that he could escape, and he continued to persist with it. I would like to refer to one story which a motivational speaker used to speak whenever he used to take a class. It's called the story of the crumbled note. It was an American motivational speaker. He said he held a $100 note in his hands and asked his audience, who wants this $100 note? Everyone raised their hand and said that, yes, I need that $100. I want that $100 note. It had a value. He crumbled that note and asked his audience, who wants this crumbled $100 note? Still, all of them said they want that $100 note. Then he crumbled he put the crumbled $100 note down, stamped on it, stood on top of it, and said, who wants this crumbled, grounded $100 note? Still, all of them said, I want that. We want that $100 note. Remember, our life is also, or could also be like this. We could get crumbled. Still, we don't lose the value. We could be grounded and crumbled, stamped over, kicked over. Still, remember, you don't lose your value. You are special. Each one is special. Each one is gifted. And each one has a value which can never be destroyed, never ever be destroyed by a third person. Imagine that you are being offered a role in a movie. Which role would you take? Would you prefer? I would say most of you would prefer the role of a hero. Some may even prefer the role of a villain. But most generally speaking, you would all prefer the role of a hero. Why? Why do you prefer the role of a hero? Because you have the spirit of a hero. Remember, there is a superhero hidden in all of you. All what requires is identify that superhero in you. If you identify the superhero in you, then mind you, sky is the limit. Identifying the superhero is by these 5 methods which Sean Stephens said, apart from various other things, like choosing a life of strength, don't fall into the prison of your mind, never believing a prediction that does not empower you, you are not your condition. If these things are followed, which I'm sure is not easy, but it requires practice, you are certainly sure to find the superhero in you. Before I conclude, I would like to say, leaving apart all the religious concepts about Bible or other religious books, what do these religious texts give us? From my personal experience, I'll say meditation. What does meditation do to us? Or these are all guiding forces that helps us to overcome our fears, our anxieties, our worries. And ultimately, what does this lead to? It leads to situations which empowers you and identifies the superhero in you. When I face an adversity, I believe that God has chosen another path for me, which for me would be better. It guides me into believing that the present adversity is not my condition. The present adversity is not a prediction for my future. The present condition should not, adversity should not destroy my inner strength. So, beginning a day with a prayer, beginning a day with a smile and a meditation actually helps you in empowering yourself. I'll conclude by reading 3 quotes of Paulo Coelho and as well as give you one small story. The quotes of Paulo Coelho is one, I can either choose to be a victim of the world. I can either choose to be a victim of the world or an adventurer in search of treasure. I'll repeat that. I can either choose to be a victim of the world or an adventurer in search of a treasure. It is all a question of how I view my life. The treasure he refers to here is actually the treasure called life. We come across some children or some people saying that, oh, I'm suffering. I don't have any money. I've never been successful in life. I don't have any friends. My family never supports me. We come across, in our legal field, we come across several such persons. I would say they're all trying to be or choosing to be a victim of the world because world has all these things. The world also has a treasure called life. In spite of all this, you can enjoy life in its beauty. The next quote that I would like to refer to is that there is only one thing that makes a dream impossible to achieve. There is only one thing that makes a dream impossible to achieve. Can anyone say what that is? Can I have an answer? There is only one thing that makes a dream impossible to achieve.
The fear of failure.
The fear of failure. Somebody said that. Who was that?
Sharon from Karnataka Northern Diocese.
Yes, very good, Sharon. The fear of failure. Whenever we embark upon anything in life, what actually prevents us from achieving it is a fear of failure. I remember a person who refuses to invest in share market. I'm not saying that you should all invest in share market. I'm saying there's an example that I often refer to. He refuses to invest in share market even when share market was on an upward trend. The reason being, in 1968, he invested some 100 rupees or 200 rupees and he lost the entire money. He fears the past failures. His fear of failure is preventing him from making his dream as an investor in shares possible. So there is only one thing that makes a dream impossible to achieve: the fear of failure. The third quote is, the secret of life is to fall 7 times, but get up 8 times. The secret of life is to fall 7 times, but get up 8 times. I think we have read about the story of Robert Brown. I think he's the one who tried to climb out of a cave 7 times and he succeeded only in the 8th time. Henry Charrier, the Papillon, coincidentally, Henry Charrier escaped at the 8th time. I do not know whether Paulo Coelho was referring to that. It was not on the book, but then maybe these things would have been in his mind. So never lose your vigor to try again. However much you fail, try to climb back and attempt to achieve what you intended. And the last quote is, you are what you believe yourself to be. You are what you believe yourself to be. The time, as Bible says, there is a time for everything. There is a time for birth. There is a time for death. There is a time for marriage. For everything, there is a time. Don't worry about your friend's time. Your friend might have become very successful at a very early age. There are child prodigies who acquire the highest qualification at the age of 14 or 17. Don't worry about it. That is his time. At what age did Bill Clinton become the president of India? At what age did Joe Biden become the president of India? So remember, there is a time for everyone. Your time, you do not know when your time is, but never lose hope. The moment you lose hope, that is a time when you lose all sort of empowerment. And prayer brings in the hope that is required to you. Continue to pray and you will become empowered. With one story, I will conclude. That is a story of a trapeze artist. One world famous trapeze artist. Do you know what a trapeze artist is? In our younger days, we used to have the circus coming to town. The circus are trapeze artists. They swing from one swing to the other with or without net underneath. It was a very dangerous act. And trapeze was very famous in the earlier years. Now we don't find it very regularly. It's not a common feature. Now, one of the world famous trapeze artists was teaching his students. And a reasonably accomplished student, a young student, one day suddenly felt he climbed onto the trapeze staircase. And before he could move, he said, I don't think I'll be able to do this. He looked down, saw the height, imagined what would happen if he fell down. Fear started gripping him. Fear of failure gripped him completely. He said, I can't do it, sir. I want to go back. Now, this trapeze artist said one thing, which I would say is perhaps one of the best motivational sermon that can be given. He said, throw your heart over the bar and your body will follow. Throw your heart over the bar and your body will follow. If you are indulging in sports, if you are a keen or a studious person, if you are indulging in any activity, throw your heart over the bar and the body will follow. When you're playing, the moment you start thinking to yourself, oh, I won't be able to make this or win this, that's the time when you start losing. On the other hand, if you continue to lose, if you're losing and keep telling yourself, no, I will throw my heart over the bar, I will start winning, I will win. You can see the change in you. Whether you win or not, your game will improve. You might have recently read or watched the shuttle badminton game between Lakshya Sen and the Anthony Gintin of Indonesia in the Thomas Cup last Sunday. Lakshya Sen is a 20-year-old shuttle badminton player from India. I've been reading about him when he was 14, from his age 14 onwards. I've been following him. Sometime back, I think he was not in the news. He could not be seen or heard. Then I read somewhere that he lost that feeling in his mind about his capability. Then a lot of coaches spoke to him. For 1 year, he stopped playing competitive shuttle. His coaches cleared his mind and told him he can win and he can win. After that, he started playing from this year onwards and he started winning tournaments. So remember, even at that level, that highest level, it is all in the mind. Throw your heart over the bar and your body will follow. With this, I would like to conclude my short session. I thank you very much for this opportunity. I learned a lot in this. I've also, as the years go by, we also slowly start becoming a bit negative in our thoughts. But preparing for this for you, I felt that I've also become more positive. In fact, I could experience that today when I went to court. Our court reopened today after a 40-day break. I felt so empowered today. The whole of this day, I was so full of confidence and energy. And I owe it to all of you. Thank you very much.